Hey guys, Yankee Prepper. This will be number 4, YP log, number 4. You know, when I started this series on fellowship, I said that I would be happy if I just got 4 or 5 guys together that I could strike up a true believer friendship with. And we could just meet once a year, somewhere. Do a wilderness trip or a hunting trip together, maybe even a mission trip together. I would be happy with the fruits of this endeavor, if that came to be. And one guy commented back, he said, Yankee, come on, you got to believe you can get 4 or 5 guys together. You know, out of 55,000 subs going on a trip with you. And just after a couple weeks of talking the very basics, right out of Scripture, just the basics of Christianity, and that is fellowship, I bet we've lost half the interest. What? You mean there's rules to this Christianity? You know, if you want to repel people, just tell them what Jesus said. You know, it's been working for 2,000 years. Jesus used to get huge crowds together, thousands of people, and that's when he would give his hardest sermons, and thousands of people would leave. I mean, in the end, he had 12 guys. The path is wide to destruction, but if you want to follow his path, it's narrow. And when he walked up to even those 12, he didn't say, hey, come along with me and just do whatever you want, guys. Come on, just whatever you think. It's fine with me. He said, follow me. Follow me. And if you love me, you'll do what I say. And that's who I'm following, guys. That's who I want to follow. I'm going to do what he says. And fellowship is the very basics of his church. That's what he wants. And I've got people writing in here and saying, it's really hard to find churches in my state. Or it's really hard to find churches in my area. They're just not good enough. They're screwed up. I'm the only perfect Christian left in my state. And I'm just too good to join them. I mean, it would ruin me. I mean, it's incredible. Some of the stuff, and I believe these people believe that. I mean, if they could hear themselves. Yeah, I just can't find a church. None of them are good enough, man. They're all fakes. I'm the only real person. I'm the only person that's totally good all the time. I mean, I don't even think I could go. Guys, you're listening to me. I don't think I could go. If you ever found a church that was good enough for you, I don't think I'd make it. You know, because I'm a sinner. That's who Jesus came back for, by the way. So I thought today in this YP log I would give an account of what my search has been like for fellowship. Maybe it'll be something that you guys can bite into too. It hasn't been easy. In fact, I look back on it now and I almost feel like God's got me kind of on a path to learn things here. Because friendship or fellowship for me in the secular world, it's always been really easy. Even in high school, I was a pretty popular guy. I mean, I can walk in to places all by myself and be totally comfortable. By the end of the night, I'll have people around me. It's always been very easy for me to make friends in the secular world. That's the important little tidbit there. And because of that, life has been easier, I suppose. You know, I've always had people that want to be around me, and before I really started following Jesus, you know, that's what it was like. I was going from one thing to the next with all kinds of people just trying to fill whatever I felt like was going to be the next fun thing to do. But I reached the end of the road for that. I'm not going to go into the details on it, but man, I just said there's got to be more than this. And I believe that's the spirit. You know, if you don't feel the need to fellowship with other believers, man, you don't have the spirit, guys. You need to be born of that other spirit, because that's what I got. I wanted to seek out, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I wanted to seek out other Christians and be friends with them. I've been friends with the world most of my life, and it's a wreck. So I wanted to find Christians to fellowship. And so I started searching other Christians out, and I think I could narrow it down to my meeting of 4 other guys here in Minnesota. And we used to go hunting together. We had a cabin. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details. On the surface, they're good guys. They were mostly white-collar guys. I mean, very successful in their field and married. But when I would spend these weeks with them or weekends with them, I would come back and I would feel so ugly, almost like I had to shower up, and then I'd have to go back out into the woods just to get my my sanity or my clarity back. It was so ugly being around these guys. And that was my first lesson in seeking out Christian fellowship. These guys were shiny on the outside, but man, it was a mess on the inside. A lot of hate, a lot of ugly hate. And they weren't very edifying of each other either. I got a lot of edification. It was easy to get edification, easy to get build up in the secular world. And here was my first experience with trying to pursue Christian friendship. And these guys, man, were constantly putting each other down. I mean, I'm not even sure how it was such a weird friendship they even had with each other. Eventually, I just kind of faded away. I just couldn't take it anymore. I'd never been around people like that. To be honest with you, I've always had good friends, especially in the military, man. I had tight buddies. These guys were really ugly. I'm not sure whose side they were on, actually. And jealous. Very jealous. So after that disappointment, I kind of walked away and I joined a church. And actually, we'd been going to this church. We'd been sending our kids. Our kids were little at this time, and they had just a fantastic kids program. I could see the changes they were making in my kids. And I take training my kids and I take showing God to my kids very seriously. The church does not do that. That's up to parents. The churches can partner with parents and they can provide opportunities to do that. And that's how I kind of look at it. It's not up to the church to raise your kids. It's up to you. But they had a great kids program. I actually ended up serving in this church for, I don't know what it was. I think it was 5 years. My wife served a year more than me. We served together in the kids program. It was so fantastic. And when I first joined this church, I was, I would say I was on very light bread or milk scripture. And the pastor there was very good at bringing me along and maturing me. I loved coming to church and hearing his sermons. And it was helping me. So I had two good things going on there. But sooner or later, it's good that I was going to church. That's not a bad thing. But sooner or later, you want to expand that. Like I said, you want to get that fellowship. And, with me being a veteran, especially, I know what fellowship is. I know what real friendship is. And you're not going to fake that to me. And the guys there, we'd see each other, nod each other, give it that little Sunday wave. And then everybody just went home. It was really strange. Some of these guys I was serving with. And it was very weird. And I was thinking, man, is this just me? I began to get paranoid. Have I just been in the secular world for so long that I just don't even fit into this Christian brotherhood thing? It was strange. And so I remember I got a guy off to the side that had been going to this church for like 15 years. And I asked him, who are your friends here? I mean, who do you call it? I gave him that old guy thing. Who do you call it like 2 o'clock in the morning if you got a problem? And he said, I don't hang around with anybody here. He's been coming to this church for 15 years. He didn't have a single Christian friend in the church. And so I went back and I prayed about this. And I said, God, I need more than this. I got to have more than this. I need other guys that I can grow with, that I can sharpen myself against. That's a need for me, even outside of the church. I need other guys that I can sharpen myself with. And so God put it on me. I felt pressed, like I feel pressed to even do this series that I'm doing right now. I've been struggling with it for a year and struggling. I fight God all the time. I wrestle against him. But he pressed it on me to do something with these guys. So I kind of fell back on my military training. I thought, if I can get these guys out working together, if I can get them away from, their wives or their jobs, I can get them out and start working together, maybe I can get some bonds going, because that's how I'm used to training guys. That's how I do it. I get them out, make them suffer together. And so we took a trip together. And long story short, it was a nightmare from almost day one. I found out very quickly that there are personal kingdoms inside churches. Man, was I naive. I had no idea. I mean, churchy people that are brought up in the church, I don't know if they're fighting for the kingdom of God or not. I know I've got my own problems, so I'm not going to point any fingers, but boy, I learned all kinds of lessons. And when this was all done and we got back from the trip overall it was very successful. I think that was due to some good planning, but the trip was pretty successful, but I really don't know. I didn't stick around long enough to really find out if it did any good. I mean, the very next year they were already letting their kids go with them on this trip, so it went from the only men's trip, true men's trip that they have in this church. They didn't have a real men's get-together thing. If you wanted to go in for pancakes on Saturday, and you could even bring your wife if you wanted to the men's meeting. It was just, there was nothing there, man. It was so shallow. I ended up moving on from that church. I just couldn't take it. I mean, once you bring kids into a men's meeting, you've already lost the connection between the guys, because they're going to revert back to being fathers or whatever role they have to do. They're not going to be honest with you. You're not going to build those relationships. And so, honestly, I feel like it was a total loss. I tried to come back and do a few things, and that got, I felt like it got wet blankets because the guys were motivated after that trip to, somewhat keep some momentum going. I went to some morning prayer meetings, and I'll end it with this because I could just go on and on about this experience. But I remember sitting in the morning prayer meetings. Here I am with these guys, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and phones are going off. Cell phones are going off while we're praying. And one of the last meetings I went to, I was praying for a buddy of mine. And one guy just interjects. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think I just lost all the data on my phone." So, if somebody could look at this. So understand what I'm saying here. We're all praying, and this guy's looking at his phone, which I already knew was going on anyway by other guys. Phones are going off all the time while we're praying. I mean, if you can't give each other the respect of just sitting with each other and being with God for a half an hour, I mean, give me a break. How on fire is that? Are these the guys that are going to storm the gates of hell? These are the guys that couldn't even storm a cubicle. I mean, I never seen anything like it. The deepest we ever got was like, there's weeds. I got some bad weeds in my yard, and I don't know. I never stuck around. I just kind of gave up. I mean, the church in my mind was dead, and I needed more than that. And I know there's good people there, but man, I've just never seen anything like that. I think the last straw for me actually is a Christmas a couple years ago. I got into a huge fight with one of my in-laws. We went there for Christmas, and there was some drinking involved, not on my end, but it's one of those typical Christmas stories, honestly. I mean, you're always taking a chance. And they're non-believers, and they wanted to watch something that was inappropriate for my kids. This brought up, my kids are the ones that told them no first, but this brought up a very fatherly response from me. And so my wife and I, were grating against each other. It was a very stressful time. And I thought, well, I'll give this men's prayer meeting a try here. I'll see if it works. And I wrote an email or made a phone call, I forget what it was, and told them, I need your prayers on this, guys. I mean, this is really hard. I'm in Colorado right now. Just gotten a huge argument with my in-laws, and it's a mess, worst Christmas I ever had. And by the time we got back, my wife, who's a very private person, walked in the doors, and it was only a matter of minutes. One of the women who is a wife of one of the guys in the men's group, came up to her and said, "Oh, I heard you had a terrible Christmas." And my wife was shocked. And it came out to be that his wife was reading his emails from the men's group. So there was no privacy. You know, they would always start off, "Hey, what we're saying here is just between us super good friends." His wife was reading the emails from the men's group. It was just, I mean, it was like unbelievable. And so I had to move on from that church. And that led me to the church that I'm going to now. And to be honest with you, I feel like that worked out for the best because I'm getting really what I need in teaching there. You know, the as you guys have seen, I really do appreciate a lot of the sermons. And I mean, I'm learning and learning. And they have an incredible men's group there. I think there's over 300 or 400 guys in the men's group there. And I did sign up, like I always do. I've signed up for several men's group meetings and Bible meetings, and the group that I went to, and I stuck it out for the time, but of that particular meeting, there's like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but after that, I just never went back because I think I'm still in the teaching. You know, I want to learn more, and I'm not ready to commit myself to that yet. But honestly, even that group of guys, they're so beat up. You know, all this stuff is either being shown to me. You know, how many guys are just, they don't even know what friendship is. So I just came from a church that they don't know what friendship is. I go to another church and these guys are so beat up. I mean, one guy was crying the second or third night. And I don't take that as a weakness, but that's where he is. You know, I was trying to explain that to you before. I mean, he needs fellowship, but at a different level. And there's really no level at the churches that I have found for guys that want to really learn and fight. And that's where I am. You know, it's all this Mr. Rogers stuff at the bottom. Our group leader, he didn't want to meet anywhere else but Starbucks for a latte. And that's just not going to work for guys like me. And one Memorial Day, I hate when they do this, but a lot of churches will do this. They'll have veterans stand up on Memorial Day. And Memorial Day is not for veterans. Memorial Day is for the guys and women that gave their life in uniform. I made it. I survived. I didn't give that kind of sacrifice. So I'm always very put off by that, you know, but I got my kids and my wife nudging me. So I stood up in church. You know, they asked veterans to stand up, and I looked over the sea of people at this church. There's like 1,000 people there. And man, I bet you I could count on both my hands the veterans. And that's why veterans aren't coming to churches, you know. Veterans, I can tell you, they know what friendship is. They don't want to come for a latte. They want to come and get together with guys that they can sharpen themselves with. And that doesn't mean I don't want to meet with non-veterans, but it's just at a different level. I hope you understand what I'm saying. You want guys that you can really sharpen yourself with and who are really on fire for following Jesus. That's what I'm looking for. And it's very hard to find that in church. So with that being said, you have to understand that fellowship and church can be two totally different things. I come to church every Sunday that I can. You know, I don't think I'm going to hell if I miss church, okay? Because that's not, we're going to get to that later on. I'll probably lose another 1,000 people on that one. But you don't have to go to church. You need to go to church because the Spirit should be prompting you to go there to learn. If you're not learning, I don't know if it's doing you any good. You know, you want to get to the point where you're eating meat at church. You want to go from the milk to the meat. And then you want to go out and show others how to get to meat. That's what you want. Fellowship is a totally different thing. You want to go to church. I do go to church to fellowship. There's other people around me. I'm shaking their hands today. I had breakfast with them today, and I spent time there with their families and my families, it's great when you can fellowship with other believers like that. But having said all that, guys, none of those paths brought me to true fellowship. I had to find fellowship outside of the brick and mortar church. And I had to pray for it specifically. After I left the first church that there was no fellowship, I prayed for it. I was just like, on my hands and knees. I'm like, Lord, I just want a couple families that I could fellowship with, that I can get together with and spend some time with. Other guys that I can sharpen myself against, and I know that my kids are safe. I specifically prayed for other families. And like a couple weeks later, in a Christian program that my kids are in, it was like out of nowhere. It was such an answered prayer. But we got an invite to a campground. There was a couple families that were going. And to make a long story short, man, now I spend a week out of my year, a solid week with them. We go on vacation together. Just from one prayer, I went from nothing to 2 other families. And I love these guys. I love their kids. I mean, think about that. Think about spending a week with a non-family, with somebody that you're not related to. That's where we are. I go with them, and then we spend, one of the guys I go hunting with, we have each other over for dinner. We hang out, little trips. Maybe we'll go down to the gun store together when it's just us guys. It's that kind of relationship. And it happened that quick. I mean, this is the kind of relationship with these 2 families that my kids at this point, they'll remember this. They'll be hanging out with each other and calling each other for decades after I'm dead, because they're spending so much time with each other during the summer and learning from each other. And then recently, again on prayer, asking for another guy that's really on fire, I met another guy who's, just throwing everything to the side and going after Jesus. He's actually more in the supernatural part of it. He's a business owner. He's got a beautiful family. And I think this guy is coming into my life to show me a different part of Christianity, because I'm such a logical-minded guy, And that's how you sharpen each other. That's how you sharpen each other. And we're not all alike. We have different gifts. But that's how I found, fellowship, like eye-to-eye fellowship, guys around me. I had to find it outside the brick and mortar church. And this guy that I recently met, he just started coming to my church. He was having the same problem. He's sick of going to churches and going to men's groups where the guys are talking about work or talking about, there's weeds in their yard. He wants to get down to some real stuff, and it's so hard to find that. It's like the churches, I don't know what it is, but churches don't see that. I think there's so many guys that are just totally wiped out and barely crawling that's, they've only got so many resources to cater to people. So that's, they're trying to get everybody in. But by doing that, you're really cutting some guys off out in the cold that are ready to go way beyond that. So that's been my path to fellowship. I had to go outside the brick and mortar church. But I still go to a brick and mortar church. I found a brick and mortar church that I can learn from. And I don't get along with everybody there, but I forgive them and I love them anyway. That's the whole point of Christianity. That's His command. And so that's what I do, even though it's not the natural thing for me to do. Being alone is probably much easier for me, especially. But that's not what He wants. And I'm not going to make up any stupid excuses like I'm the only Christian left in my area. I just can't go to a church because they're just not good enough. They're all messed up. I got to tell you guys, hey, they got room for just one more hypocrite, okay? For you all perfect Christians out there. The bottom line is, let me tell you this. It's been going on for like 25 minutes now. Jesus said He's going to build a church. Do you understand that? He's going to build a church. And when God says He's going to do something, He's going to do it. That doesn't mean He needs you. You have to understand that. God doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. He's going to do it. He already is. There's really good churches out there. He's going to build a church that the gates of hell will not withstand. And he's going to do it without you. That's the whole point. He's never going to force you. He told you what he wants, and he's telling you this is what you need to do. After that, it's your choice. It's your choice whether you want to join his church. And that church, that's who he's coming back for. He's not coming back for whatever your personal church is. He's coming back for his church, guys. And I want to be part of that church. I'm looking for other guys that want to be part of that church. So you don't get to make up what you want. I don't even care what I want. I've made enough wrecks with what I want. I want to go to his church. I'm going to address one more thing here. I've read every single comment and email and private message that I've been sent. And some of you guys, man, you've humbled me with what you've said. I've had people really reach out to me on a different level that I don't think people have ever reached out to me on this level. Some of you are near, some of you are far away. I've read every single one of them, and I have not written any of you back. I'm so like, I don't even know what to say. Some of it makes me, really nervous. Some of it makes me very happy. I'm glad that we're connecting that way, because some of you, when I read what you write, I recognize it. That's me too. I'm there too. Man, it's really scary for me because I don't know the way to fix this. My whole channel's been built on fixing things and showing you guys. I don't know the way out of this. I don't know if this is the right path or not. I'm finding fellowship, but I had to find it outside the church. I can't tell you this is the way because I don't know. I'm just trying to follow him. And so when you guys look at me and you say, man, you've changed my life, or I want to do this like you did, guys, what you're seeing is the redeemed part of me. The one that you're looking at and you're saying, you've changed my life. It's God that's changed your life. Maybe he's used me, and I'm very humbled by that. But you should have seen me before when I was doing it. It was a wreck, and I was hurting people around me. I mean, I couldn't even drive around without murdering 3 or 4 people in my mind. I could be a thief, a liar, an adulterer, and a murderer all in the same afternoon. What you're seeing here, if you're seeing happiness, if you're seeing life well lived, any part of that, it's the redeemed part of my life, guys. It's what he's done in my life, not what I've done. I keep him very busy cleaning up my mess. So I don't know, there's some of you I want to write back. I mean, I wish I could write all of you back. I don't even know what to say. Some of these things, you've really laid your heart out to me. And so give me some time to handle that, because you may know me. I don't even know you, but I can see what you're writing me is, I feel that too. I'm going to end it there. It's almost been 30 minutes for this log, so there's so much more I could say. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend. YP log number 4, signing out.